Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your host, Ashton, with my awesome co host, Zac. How are you doing? Did you enjoy watching those championship games and particularly one very, very satisfying result?
For sure, yeah, that was a fun game to watch. Getting the 49ers kind of some of their own medicine a little bit. That team just did not play very well at all. And then unfortunately, um, kind of making bad judgment calls, it seems.
Yeah, we'll definitely jump into that game a little bit more. Definitely a lot of smack talk being done beforehand, especially by both fan bases. Not a good idea to put the flag or cape on the Rocky statue, in my opinion. I wouldn't do it, but hey, you look stupid now. But someone had to win, and it was definitely more lopsided than I thought it would be. Losing multiple QBs in one game will do that. So, just fascinating results. And I don't know, Zac. The
What are your
49ers
what are
are
your
kind.
thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about this emergency backup QB that the 49ers are now wanting to throw out there?
I mean, they didn't really have a choice. I mean, they didn't really use McCaffrey. They just brought out Purdy back out when he couldn't throw. So like he was kind of useless out there. I thought they should have had McCaffrey for the full fourth quarter. I mean, say what you want,
Yeah,
like
I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure they why they didn't do that. I mean, if you look kind of at the history of the Rams, they've always kind of had an emergency QB. In the past it used to be Hecker. Probably right now it would probably be Cooper Cup, and even Stafford said it on his wife's podcast this past week that he thinks Cup would be their emergency quarterback. But they did have three uh, you know QBs on their roster, so there's a plus to that.
yeah, we never have been in that type of situation, even though we've seen a lot of QB turnover as of late. And I hope we never are in that situation, Zac, because frankly, you're probably going to lose if you're in that situation. And I still think if Purdy was in the whole game, Zac, they would have lost. I just think it would have been a kind of like 27 to like, I don't know, 17 type game. I think they would have just been blown out, but just not by a huge margin like they were.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, really, they have been the quarterback position has been playing mediocre at best. I mean, and that's Shanahan's really good about taking an average, even maybe above average quarterback, and as long as he's a good manager of the game, they're able to be pretty much successful, building off the back of their defense. So again, I wasn't really shocked by the outcome. The only reason why it was a close game for as long as it was because of the 49er defense. But they just couldn't keep up, after consistently being put back out on the field. So, like any good defense, your biggest weakness is your offense if you have to keep getting back on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that playing against the Packers in 2020 when we had the best defense in the league, our offense it did better than the 49ers offense this game. But even then, it's still put our defense in such a situation. We ended up losing that game because our offense was slow, especially in the, I would say, first and third quarter of that game. Um, but that was a good championship game. The other one, Zac. Oh man, I tried to tell you. I tried to say I thought the Chiefs, and I felt like I was not that I was the only one, but a lot of people are consensus like just picking the Bengals. Not saying the Bengals aren't a good team, they are, and that was a good game. But I just felt like this Chiefs team was getting ridden off for some reason, and I was like, so Mahomes is hurt. Like, I don't think that's going to impact the Chiefs as much as people thought it was, and it didn't. What's your reaction to the AFC game and the Chiefs winning?
So in one aspect, I kind of agree with you. I mean, if you looked at the roster, I think the Bengals had an overall better roster. At the time entering this game, they had three really good receivers. They have a good tight end. They have a great quarterback, two above decent running backs. Their defense has been playing pretty well. Their biggest struggle was their offensive line, and it did show this week. They just kept getting pressure on Burrow. To me, it kind of felt like it was kind of Burrow's fault a lot of times. He could have scrambled and got out of the pocket to try to make throws, and he didn't. But then I think the officiating wasn't great. I think we've all seen it over the last week. You 49ers fans will complain about the officiating in their game as well. That one was, maybe it's just because my bias, but to not like the 49ers. But there were maybe some ticky-tack calls that might have been played, but for the most part, that was pretty accurate. You look at the Bengals game, and the Bengals game just kind of, you had plays being blown up because you couldn't hear the refs whistling or lack of whistle or whatever it was. There was plenty of times where, even in the Mahomes push out at the very end, you could definitely tell that there was some holding on the offensive line for the Chiefs. I know that it's probably ticky-tack, and, you could say, well, it's a judgment call. Well, it's a judgment call too, to call any of those things. So, I do feel bad a little bit for the Bengals, but at the same time, I don't think their offense played the lights out as they should to have progressed. So again, I think the outcome is probably what it should have been. Especially Mahomes was playing pretty well on an ankle that he was not 100%. He wasn't even 75 or even 60% on that ankle. But he was able to make plays even without his major weapons. He had Kelsey, which was great. But other than that, he was kind of scrambling. He was kind of scrambling to find someone to make those big plays for him.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a good game, hard fought. Some, like you said, ticky tack things, but ultimately, I just feel like the Chiefs were the better team during that game. And I know Bengal fans, I know your family is a little upset about that. I get it, but I feel like you saw some of Zach Taylor's weaknesses as a coach in that game. The way they managed the clock near the end, I didn't think was exactly the best. It's Mahomes, man. You got to choke that team out of time at the end, or like Buffalo found out, if you give him time, like they're going to kill you.
Yeah, but at the same time, they missed a block in the back on that punt that should have pushed them back. Instead, they got pushed forward. So, again, Shanahan had a worse time management, it felt like, than Zach Taylor did. I mean, I think Zach Taylor at that point was just mad. He was mad at all the calls that were happening against him. And consistently, every time they were about to get the ball back, the refs gave the Chiefs something else to kind of try to keep the momentum alive. So, there's a lot of stuff that went into that game. I honestly don't blame Taylor as much as I blame Burrow. I think Burrow did not do that team service. And again, he's a young quarterback. He took him to the Super Bowl last year. He took him to another AFC Championship game this year. He has a long ways to go. And I just think this was still a little bit of, immaturity on the biggest stage out there.
I just find it kind of rich, all these Bengals fans complaining about the refs when they didn't say anything when they got free touchdown in Super Bowl. So, like, yeah, I didn't see anything in that game that was near that level of like awful call or miscall or whatever you want to call it. So it is
If you
what
go
it
back
is.
and watch, even the comment or the what was it the chief rules analyst for CBS
Fox
is I think who had the channel.
or
I mean, even
CBS.
he said some of the calls that were being called against the Bengals were, they were. I think it was CBS for the Bengals game, but they even were mentioning how kind of like, if it was me, I probably wouldn't have called it, and that happened multiple times in that game. So there is some merit to the officiating crew for that. They did themselves a disservice. Their offense did not play well enough. That game, if they were playing at their what they were playing against the Bills, that game should have been 40-20. Like there is no reason why that game shouldn't have been a higher point game for the Bengals. They just could not produce anything. And again, that goes to the point of why they lost, not necessarily the officiating. It just didn't help them towards the end of the game to,
Mm-hmm.
Either get into overtime or have a chance to win it out.
Well, Zach, let's talk very quickly about the Pro Bowl. Of course, Ramsey as an alternate was able to get in. He played in dodgeball. His team did lose. The NFC ended up winning the dodgeball, stopping the AFC from sweeping the day and winning, I believe, all 4 events. Zach, do you care about the Pro Bowl? Do you care about this dodgeball game at all? And are you happy the NFC is probably going to still lose the Pro Bowl like it always does?
Yeah, that's the key question. So, kind of some highlights. So, I was actually pretty excited about this. I honestly thought the dodgeball game was going to be better than it actually was. It ended up kind of being somewhat lame. Only I think just because of the way we had to watch it. We kind of watched it from a top-down view, kind of far away. So it's kind of hard to even figure out who was even playing, because you were watching them from the side, kind of toward like up a little bit, so you couldn't even see the back of their jerseys to see what number they were. So it was pretty difficult. Like you mentioned, Ramsey kind of got knocked out early in his match. First, it was the NFC offense versus defense, and the NFC offense versus defense, and that's how they decided who was going to play each other on NFC versus the AFC versus the NFC. So we didn't really get to see a whole lot of Ramsey. He got knocked out pretty quickly. But I do think that it's an interesting take. Do I like every piece that they're doing? Not really. Do I really care about the golf drives? Not really. Does that really tell us who's the better division by, who's knocking a ball out? It's fun, but not necessarily worth the points. Now, some of the things that I do think are unique to the Pro Bowl, I did like the precision targeting. I know that's kind of something that's been done in the past, but it's really cool to see that. We got to see Jared Goff, come back at it. He did really well. He was on fire, like lighting up the big points pretty quickly. He was the only one really who knocked out the big points early, and really the only thing that he was struggling with was the kind of the quick routes at the very beginning. Other than that, we'll see how Sunday goes. We'll see how flag football plays. So there's some things I like about it. Some things the kind of gimmicky, let's do water balloon toss. I think that's lame. But one of the cool ones was where the defensive players had to catch a football in the air, and then they had to keep stacking them. So they would catch one, then the next time they would have to keep the one that they had plus catch another one. So those are kind of some fun ones that I like, but it's related to football. Once you take it out of the football realm, like you said, it's not super interesting to watch. But hey, you got to see Ramsey for a little bit, and then Rampage is going to be all over the screen as the mascot for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, Rampage is awesome. He's cool.
We love Rampage.
Yeah, we love Rampage. This is a pro Rampage podcast, okay? Um, let's move on to some big news with the Rams themselves. Zach, the Rams go out and get Mike LaFleur as their offensive coordinator. How are you feeling about this hire? Can you tell us more about him, and uh, what direction do you think this is taking the Rams?
Yeah, so Mike LaFleur, he got hired last Friday onto the Rams, coming from the Jets. And so the last 2 years that he has been the offensive coordinator for the Jets. Before that, he was actually on the 49ers coaching staff. And I think this really just brings in a familiarity to McVay. Um, Obviously his older brother, Matt LaFleur. There's that family bonding that they have, and so really, it's I think trying to get McVay back to getting a little bit more familiar and having um, someone kind of on his side to help him make these big decisions.
Mhm. Yeah, Zach. I feel like Mike LaFleur, going into the Jets at the time he did, it was not an easy job to get, or tackle, because you have to look at it. He had a rookie quarterback. He had a team that was completely deprived of almost any offensive weapons. Um, so like you can understand his first year with the Jets being what it was, which kind of a disaster. This year, at least in my opinion, Zach, because I got to watch a few Jets games. Uh, when you're able to make a offense work, and may I remind everyone, they had a better offense than the Rams. Work when Joe Flacco being your only capable QB, Joe Flacco in 2023. I feel like you have skills, and I feel like he deserves the other chance. I know some people hate this hire. I am honestly very excited for this hire. I feel like we need more of that Shanahan style offense, to get to kind of balance out with McVay's pass heavy offense. And I feel like once we find that balance, and if he's able to do just half of what he did with Brees Hall, with like Akers or a new draft pick, I really feel like we could potentially have a top five offense, top 10 offense. We have the QB for it. Uh, we have a top five wide receiver for it. It just, we have to put that all together, and hopefully the injuries kind of don't happen again, and we can proceed with actually having a watchable football team this year.
Yeah, I do like this move. Obviously, he was the favorite coming into this. Just kind of knowing all that, um, but his specialty is in the offense. I mean, you look at his career. He started off the career as an offensive intern with the Browns, working with the offensive line. Then he spent 2 seasons as an offense assistant in the coaching staff at the Falcons, working with the tight ends. Then with the receivers in San Francisco, he was a passing game specialist and wide receivers coach. Um, and so he just kept getting that opportunity to put together his kind of his offensive playbook. And then, like you said, he went to the Jets and was able to, do something with them, which, like you said, they're dealing with pretty much just having Joe Flacco. So, but being able to adapt and be able to have that running game, I think is definitely going to be something that Nick is going to lean into. So hopefully, between the helping out with the um, offensive line in the run game, and then married with Sean McVay and his passing game with Stafford and Cup and the rest of those, I think this is a good mix, and we should see some pretty. I think get back to the high octane offense that we've been kind of used to seeing from the Rams, especially since McVay has join the ranks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so both me and you are kind of on the same page. We think it's a solid hire. Do I think it's a home run? Like, do I expect a top five offense? Not exactly, but I think he's going to help us get back to being a top 10 offense, at least,
I
and
mean,
kind of help alleviate some of that work from McVay.
yeah, I mean, and kind of some other positives is that he worked for Shanahan for so many years. Hopefully, he can bring some of those secrets into the fold of the Rams, and maybe we can kind of finally, get away from the regular season losses that we've been hitting. Obviously, he's brothers to Matt LaFleur, and there's going to be some brotherly rivalry when they come to match, and so I think that they're going to be scheming against each other, and maybe little brother will want to seek some big revenge on big brother. Um, so yeah, so I think, I think it's gonna be, well. We have to realize that the offense is always going to be run under Sean McVay. That's just who Sean McVay is, and that's just what we expect. I mean, we've seen him be a mastermind at things, but I think he needs someone who's going to be able to help off kilter some of his, you know, his side effects of only sticking to the pass game and things like that. So hopefully he can be kind of that voice that can kind of challenge McVay and kind of bring this kind of this different this just brings a different atmosphere and a different ideas that can really flourish this offense.
Yeah, definitely will be healthy for the philosophy of the offense. Zach, in other news, Raheem Morris has another interview with the Colts, a second interview. The Colts are being very weird with their hiring process. There's still rumors that they may just hire Jeff Saturday anyways. They're also looking at the defensive coordinator of the Broncos. It just Hey, what's your feeling? Do you think Raheem Morris will be back as a Ram next year, or do you think he's going to be the head coach of the Colts? I think it's kind of crazy he hasn't been hired yet.
Yeah. Living in Indianapolis, I have my ears a little bit more to the ground on when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts and what they're doing. And so I do not think that Raheem Morris will be the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. So they completed their second interviews this past week. It's been reported that Morris had a all-day event that lasted late into the evening with an interview process. But they're about to head into round number 3. Knowing much about knowing quite a bit about them, I so they're checking all the boxes that they can to make sure that this is a search that has gone through rigorous amounts of interview process, only to come down to what Jim Irsay really wants. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think Raheem Morris will be back with the Rams, and I think that's a positive thing. I know a lot of fans out there are not super hyped on Raheem Morris, but again, the problems with this team this year was not a defensive problem. Yes, there were some pain points, but just like I kind of mentioned about the 49ers a little bit, if your offense isn't able to be consistent and allow you to sustain drives and keep the defense off the field for any period of time, you definitely are going to have to rely on your defense, and then that just puts more kinks in the armor.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that I feel like there is room for improvement in our DC situation. But he's still good, and he's still underrated for what people give him credit for. I would really, really love Evero as our defensive coordinator. I really would. I think he would be great. The things he did with the Broncos is kind of what I want to see with the Rams. So that's why I kind of want Morse to get hired. But if he doesn't, I'm not going to be upset about it. I think he's a good DC, and you can definitely do worse. We have seen what special teams uh, moving off of a good coach doesn't always give you a better coach afterwards. Uh, and you just got to live with that sometimes. Zach, let's kind of start talking about free agency a little. And guys, we'll be trying in next few podcasts to talk about different groups of free agents and kind of like the people me and Zach think could be good fits for the Rams or would be bad fits for the Rams. Zach, do you want to break down some of the free agent edge rushers and kind of like where you would want to go there if you think the Rams should even get a edge off of free agency, or should we look for it in the draft?
So as far as the free agents of edge rushers, we have the Eagles who have Robert Quinn and Brandon Graham up for free agency. The Colts is Nayuku. I think that's how you say his name. Browns, Clowney. Raiders, you have Kellen Farrell. 49ers, Samson Ubicom. Jaguars, Arden Key. Dolphins, Melvin Ingram. Ravens, Justin Houston. Saints, Marcus Davenport. Cowboys, Dante Fowler. And honestly, any of those guys would really be great to bring onto the field. Obviously, there are some of those who already have familiarity with the Rams. Some of it may be longer than the others. But, I could see them trying to, depending where our cap is, I definitely think they need to pick one up in the draft. But, you might be able to get Robert Quinn for relatively inexpensive. More they could help train whoever is going to be coming in the backfield to help fill them in that draft class. Any of those names stand out to you?
So the way you pronounce it, Zach, is Yannick Ngakwe is the pronunciation. He was actually a teammate of Ramsey's during the 2017 Jaguars run. So to answer your question, I think out of all the guys on this list outside of Davenport, he would be a very sneaky pick. I really like Ngakwe's ability to get to the QB. He's also a solid kind of run defender. He kind of reminds me a lot of kind of like Dante Fowler when he played with us that year in 2018, right? Was Dante Fowler?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Him, I would like
Yep.
Marcus Davenport. I think Davenport's going to be a little bit too expensive for us, though. Like you said, if you're looking for like uh, a cost kind of saving guy, Robert Quinn, probably the best. See how much he has in his tank. I don't know how much he really has, honestly. Um, I mean, we
He would
could.
be one of those Eric Weddles or Clay Matthews. Like it's going to be a short-term deal. This isn't going to be a multi-year prospect if we went that route.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind Brandon Graham. I feel like he's solid. Uh, yeah, but Ngakwe is the big one for me. I guess if you're feeling risky, go for Clowney if he's cheap enough. I don't think Clowney will be cheap, and I don't think he's going to be worth it unless if he is cheap.
Yeah. All right. right. So, did you get to watch any of the Senior Bowl?
I did not get to watch Senior Bowl. I've seen some highlights. My brother-in-law was telling me about a few of the prospects.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch as much as I would like to. Has been when it comes to the Senior Bowl, what players that they have actually chosen over the last several years that participated in the Senior Bowl, and it seems actually, kind of overall from the draft, over the last couple of years, the Senior Bowl has been a bigger deal. A lot more players have come out of it over the last 2 years than in many of the previous years prior to that. So just kind of kind of review some of the key players that the Rams have chosen from the Senior Bowl since 2017. You have Darian Kendrick, who was our sixth rounder. Back in 2021, Robert Rochelle, fourth rounder, and Ben Skoranek, seventh rounder. In 2020, we had Van Jefferson, Terrell Lewis, Terrell Burgess, Bryson Hopkins, and Tremaine Ankrum. That was a big year for the Rams pickup, who participated in the Senior Bowl. 2019, we had Mr. Greg Gaines. In 2018, we had Joe Noteboom, Micah Kaiser, Okoronkwo, and then Jamal Demby. And in 2017, we had Gerald Everett, Cooper Kupp, John Johnson, Josh Reynolds, Tenzel Smart, and Sam Rogers. Really, I think only three of those players I don't ever really remember playing in a normal regular season game.
Yeah. I mean, kind of a crapshoot like the rest of the draft. So I just hope they're paying attention, taking notes, and that way we can start hitting on more people. Because our last few drafts, Zach, haven't been working out the way we wanted them to. And we've had a few solid contributors, but outside of that, we maybe have one person in the last 3 drafts that you could say you could see being a superstar. Potentially 2 if Cam Akers keeps on the trajectory he's currently on, but we'll see if he has the injury bug or not.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this, I mean, it's the only thing I was just going to say is it's been hit or miss. I mean, obviously 2017 was probably our best year. And then we've picked up a couple other ones. Probably 2020 was our next year. So, really, I think we're due some good candidates. And, the Senior Bowl has been a great selection. I mean, you look at it, those are some people that we want to keep around still for a long time. In this class or in this platform. So definitely looking forward to seeing what the Rams pick up, if anybody, from the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Zach, just touching on the free agency, the Rams are now only $14 million over the cap. Again, we know as Rams fans, we don't really have to worry about this. Les Need will figure out a way to kind of make the cap work for us next year. And if they want to make any moves in free agency, Aaron Donald, I believe, clears up like $20 million cap if we end up restructuring his contract. We could extend and restructure Cup. There's a lot of choices, so I'm not worried. And a lot of good players that we definitely have the option of doing those things to their contracts to kind of give us flexibility. Zach, do you have any comments on the cap situation? Are you sweating at night about the Rams being over the cap?
No, and I don't think, when you look at it, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are actually over the cap, and the Rams aren't even the Rams aren't even the biggest culprit when it comes, the Saints, and I don't even know. I mean, holy crap, they're 58 million over the cap. And the Rams are 14.19. Like, come on, why are we getting such grief about, the F them picks? The Rams have sold
Bad
their future.
contracts.
Like, where did the state bad contracts? Like, where are the Saints? Like, come on, give me a don't even give there are 14 teams that are over the cap. The Rams are one of them. And we're not even that much. So I think this is completely overblown. We could restructure Aaron Donald's contract if we want. Yes, that would push it to 2024. But again, they're able to do so. Restructure Cooper Kupp. They can, move things to signing bonuses, things like that. Then you look at players. You look at are there any going to be any sacrificial lambs this year? And unfortunately, when it comes down to it, you look. You have Allen Robinson, who could potentially be a cap casualty. You have Brian Allen, who could possibly be a cap casualty. Joe Noteboom could be a cap casualty. All those players are getting paid pretty significantly when, especially this season, they didn't produce as much as we were expecting them to do. Yes, Brian Allen, he's the center. He got injured. He did his best to try to stay in there. But really, when Coleman Shelton was in that spot, the offense was able to do a little bit more on the run game. And so, I really think that offensive line is going to have to shift, especially with, LaFleur coming in, them going to get a new offensive line coach. I really think that's going to have to shift if we're going to be successful both in the run game and in the pass game.
No, I definitely think that's all great points there. Zach, do you want to go ahead and start reading some of our awesome emails from our readers? You put out on the Twitterverse that you wanted people to come and email us, tell us their story of why they became a Ram fan. And, Zach, we wanted to do this to help display the community a little bit more. We both have like very interesting stories of why we became fans. So we wanted to put that out there and give people the platform to do their own kind of story.
Yeah, and I think we're going to do this from time to time, kind of come up with different new questions to ask. But I think for the next couple of weeks, we're gonna do like Ashton said, it's called "What's Your Ram Story." So whether you're a fan your whole life, newly added fan, you're a fan weathered fan, you're an original LA Rams fan, or you started off with a St. Louis Rams fan, we're kind of wanting to bring these stories to life a little bit. So the first one we got was from book writer Dude. He was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Everyone around him was a Falcons fan. He hated the Falcons for obvious reasons, but he fell in love with the Rams uniforms. The black and white helmet with the horn was the coolest thing he had ever seen. He loved Deacon Jones and Merlin Olsen and Roman Gabriel. He says he's been with them through thick and thin in different cities. Rams fan till I die. So seemingly back to the original LA Rams days.
Yeah. I believe even the Rams had a black and red uniform for 1 year in the 40s. If I'm remembering correctly, I personally would love a throwback to those. I love black and red, but that's I don't think the Rams will ever do that.
Nope. With two other red divisions in our team. The black, I'm not really a big fan of the black. They came out with those Super Bowl black and blue jerseys. They didn't really do it for me. Didn't really want to buy one of those. So, it is what it is. I'm not really looking forward to the black. I would kind of like to see a bright yellow. Like I would see like the reverse of what we're wearing these days, like blue with yellow accent. I would kind of want to see like an all yellow with blue accent and see what that would look like. I think that would really pop a little bit. So, so yeah. Our next one is from at Spuds Chat. My father originally arrived in SoCal in 1985 from Mexico with zero knowledge of who the Rams. He would watch my uncles yell at the TV about some weird sport where the ball was shaped like an egg. My uncle slowly started to teach my dad about the game, and being that they were Rams fans, he became a fan as well. He then passed on his traditions to my siblings and I. Even when they were in St. Louis, my father stayed loyal because he saw no point in switching teams, and he's all in on my dad for showing an impactful segment that will. Oh, yeah. I was reading my next notes. Cue script. So, Ashton, do you want to give a little bit about your story again? I know we kind of talked about on one of our early pods, but how did you
Our
become a
first
Rams
pod.
fan? And I'll share mine the next week.
Yeah, I just want to comment on last one. That's really cool, man. I think that's the story of America's immigration coming here, and picking up what you want to and being part of the culture, and participating while also putting in your own culture and kind of enriching all of everyone's life around you. And I think that's a great thing getting into football. And I'm happy you guys chose the Rams. Kind of sucks that they left, and that kind of segues into my story. I was born in LA originally around 95, and through being a military brat, a part of that is moving a lot, so I didn't get to stay. And fast forward around 16, 17 years, I wanted to get into football. I hated it growing up, to the point where I even cried when I got a joke football one year for Christmas. Uh, as a kid, uh, I wanted to get into it because some of my friends were into it. Some of my siblings were into it, so I was like, okay, I'll just try to get into it. And that year was 2015, and I was really looking for a team, but no team did it. I couldn't find a team that I really cared about or I liked the colors. And then the Rams announcement came as soon as I was trying to decide a team, and it was they were going to move back to LA, and it felt like perfect timing, and so I became a Rams fan because of that. I knew the team wasn't good and had been good for a while, but I didn't care, and I really liked the uniforms. Those horns just look nice. They look nice, especially when the team is good. Uh, but yeah, that's how I became a fan.
So, man, you may not have been a LA Rams fan if they did not move back to LA.
I probably wouldn't be.
Would you have been an? You would be. Well, I guess the Chargers probably wouldn't have moved if it wasn't for the Rams. But still,
I
the possibilities could be this could be an East Coast Chargers podcast, except with a different co-host, of course.
to be honest, I was leaning towards the 49ers, but I hated the gold. I love red, but I hate gold. I thought the red and gold was tacky. And that's why I didn't instantly jump and become a 49ers fan, because it just didn't look nice to me. I liked the Seahawks colors, but I was like, that's nowhere near California. So it had to be somewhere I was from. I couldn't stand the Panthers. I think they don't look good at all, because I lived in South Carolina at that time. And the Panthers weren't really from South Carolina. So my only choices were really the Chargers, and at the time, uh, I something about Chargers just made me not like them a lot. Uh, I tried to watch a few of the games, but it just didn't draw me. And San Diego is like, not exactly LA. So I'm happy it's the Rams, and it's been great ever since. Not when they're getting destroyed for a season, but fans have been through a lot worse. So I've been very grateful. They've been good. I didn't expect them to be good, but I'm happy they have been. And it's one rough season is nothing compared to 10. So I'll definitely take the one rough if we end up doing good next year.
For sure. I totally get what you're saying about the tacky red and gold. I still think, I mean, that's so, 90s era when they were winning the Super Bowl, like that was the popular color. And I feel like they just have not rebranded themselves well to modern times. They're still stuck with those, early Super Bowl wins. And so, that's where I'm at with them. But I'll talk about my story in the next week's podcast. But yeah, I think I think this is just kind of an impactful statement where we can kind of continue to, connect with the fans and kind of hear their stories and allow us to kind of share them with everyone who listens. So I think this is a pretty cool segment that I hope we continue to do. But if you want to share your Ram story, you could send it to us at feedback@eastcoastrams.com, or you can DM us on Twitter.
Yes, Zach. Do you want to go ahead and finish up this week, this week's podcast with my quick five? So
yes, let us get into your off season.
Yes. So Zach, every podcast we do for the off season before the draft, we'll try to go over a few prospects that we're interested in, that I'm interested in. Zach's always free to add in any guys that he kind of like has seen videos of or stuff like that that he thinks would be a good fit for the Rams. For me, again, we're not really experts at this. We're not pretending to be. Some of these guys will hit, some of them won't. But these are guys that kind of popped out to the screen to me when I was watching college football and things I've seen afterwards. So take that for what it is. The first one, Zach, is Jalen Wyatt of Tennessee, and I'm projecting him at round 2 to 3. This kid was electric for Tennessee. 15 touchdowns, averaging 19 yards a pass with around 1,300 yards this season. He was a downfield threat, even had a game where he had 5 touchdowns, just getting thrown the ball everywhere. I feel like the Rams really need a wide receiver. This year kind of proved that when Cup went down, we didn't have that second guy. We didn't have that guy could fill in, even if it wasn't at the same production of Cup. No one could fill that gap. Robinson couldn't. Van Jefferson couldn't. I felt like we had a bunch of wide receiver threes on the field at the exact same time. And the kind of production spoke for itself. And I think we have to draft a wide receiver, and I think Wyatt will be I think he gives me Amon-Ra St. Brown vibes, Zach, from this draft.
Well, cool, because St. Brown has been doing some work in Detroit, so we could definitely use a guy like him.
Yeah, that's
what is his statue? Like, is he as far as Wyatt's stature? Is he a long, like a bigger dude, long arms, long legs kind of guy? Is he a speed runner? Do you know any more about that?
Yeah, I feel like he's more of a balanced build. He's 6 foot, so that's kind of like why he's not going in the first round. He is a little shorter for a wide receiver. He's like medium build, but he's quick. I wouldn't say he's like too out well quick, but for being 6 foot, I feel like he's pretty quick. for being 6 foot. I don't know his combine number right now off the top of my head, but I feel like he's a pretty well-rounded wide receiver, and he's electric when he's on the field. Definitely, like I said, uh, Amon-Ra St. Brown vibes for me, like that type of person that I thought would be like a mid draft steal. And that's who I wanted us to draft, by the way, that draft class versus Tutu Atwell. So take that for how you want it. Next one is, I think it's very important, Zach, that the Rams get a QB to be a backup. I think this year also proved, while we don't have enough wide receivers, we don't have any backup QBs. And, in case the Stafford goes down, we have to have. I feel like having a rookie wouldn't be a bad thing. And potentially we could shape him up to be the future QB of the Rams if it pans out. Having a bunch of guys waste on your roster when they're clearly not it, and they got chances this year, even with the O line that's kind of battered. The O line was all right near the end of the season, and I don't think that's a good enough excuse for how bad they played. So I would select in the 6th or 7th round Max Duggan from TCU. Just amazing run from this kid. Awesome story. Real decent completion percentage, around 64%, but he did get 3,700 yards and 32 TDs to 8 interceptions. Uh, Solid numbers, Zach. I feel like the kid's a fighter, and I feel like in the 7th round, why not take a shot at a kind of rookie and kind of have him learn behind Stafford? And then Zach, for my third guy, I have Brylan Trice, edge from Washington, round 2 or 3. I absolutely believe, Zach, if Trice is there in our at our second round pick, I fully expect the Rams take him. They would be crazy not to. He led the league, or not league, but he led college in pressures. He was a monster at providing pressure. He didn't really do fantastic at getting sacks. He still got 10, which is a solid number. I really think the Rams could benefit having him in their rotation. If he's there in the 2nd round, I doubt he falls further than the 1st round. I would be surprised. And then Travarius Hodges Tomlinson, a cornerback from TCU. I have him projected around round 4 to 6. Uh, we definitely need depth at cornerback. I feel like our cornerback room was struggling there near the end. And so we should look to kind of fulfill that room with more bodies. And I feel like this cornerback from TCU, he does have some speed issues. He's not the tallest. That's kind of why he's this late. Uh, I know people are going to be like, that's kind of a familiar pick to what we did last year in the 6th round. But you got to take shots at these guys. You're either going to get people who are rough in coverage and pure athletes, or vice versa this late in the draft. So you got to take shots. I think this guy would be one worth taking.
Very good.
And then my favorite of all these picks that I think would be a great value pick is from round 4 to 6 is Chase Brown of Illinois, the running back. I think he would be a slam dunk. He was electric every time I turned on an Illinois game. And I did watch a few Illinois game because someone on Twitter, I believe Nolan, is a big Illinois fan, and he kept on posting clips of this guy. So I had to watch, and I kept on watching, and I was like, this kid is electric. I feel like he's going to be a steal for whoever gets him in the later rounds. So if the Rams don't pick a running back early, I think he would be good complement to Cam Akers.
Well, well, we definitely need depth in that spot. So, yeah, I definitely would want us to bring over, a good running back. Very cool. Well, these are some great picks. Good first selection of picks. I think these are all definitely players that the Rams should be keeping their eyes on. To draft.
Yeah, man. When we do our draft reactions, if one of these guys are, picked, I'm gonna be freaking out. Maybe we can do some live stream during the draft. I don't know. Definitely not day one. But maybe we'll try to do something if there's interest out there. But overall, I'd be really thrilled if one of these guys becomes a Ram.
Yeah, that'd be cool. The draft weekend is always my birthday weekend, so that's just how it is every year. My birthday, it falls on my birthday, for better or for worse. But yeah, it's always a fun time to keep up with the draft during that time. So, all right, well, man, this was a good pod. I'm happy
Great
with this
pod.
pod. You happy with this pod?
I loved it. Got through a lot of news, great stories. Thank you guys for sending those in, and keep on sending them in. We'll keep on reading them, and just reminiscing on the past.
For sure. Yeah. So we're trying new things. Obviously, we're working on a new kind of video platform to kind of, get these uploaded a lot faster and try to make things in our post-production go a lot quicker. So, feedback would be great. We're going to keep trying to make this a better podcast every single week. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. You can always send questions and feedback to feedback@eastcoastrams.com or hit us up on Twitter. Our official Twitter account is at East Coast Rams, and we're on YouTube. So please check us out. Please subscribe, smash that bell, something like that. You can find that at youtube.com/@EastCoastRams. Ashton, final words. How can people find you?
You guys can find me at RamFanAshton1 and keep up the interaction. We love it, guys. And we're looking forward to the draft and, potentially some free agent signings, maybe. Snead is up to stuff constantly.
Yep, and we're going to keep up all the news that the Rams are going to come out with over the next couple weeks, including, are we keeping Raheem Morris? Or did he leave and we have to find a replacement? Is Aaron Donald staying, or is he going to go back into retirement like Tom Brady did this week? So lots of fun news and lots of fun stuff coming up in the next several weeks. You can find me at Zac Mayer. But again, big thanks to everyone who follows the pod, follows our interactions on Twitter. It's fun. It's great. Let's keep it moving. So we don't, we're not playing. We're done. We've been out for a few weeks. But we are all Ramley. And so each and every day, we always want to keep it horns up.